Okay, imagine this. Picture a future morning, maybe right outside your window. It's a future where humans and machines, they look so alike you can barely tell them apart.
Right. Walking down the street, in offices.
Exactly. Sharing our homes. These robots, they look identical to us, talking, thinking, maybe even, well, feeling. Is this just some sci-fi movie plot?
Or is it something else? Is it, the start of our actual future?
It's a big question.
Especially given the last few years. I mean, the speed of technological change, particularly this convergence of AI, machine learning, robotics, it's unprecedented.
Totally. And this convergence, as the material we looked at points out, it's basically given birth to something, well, something new.
Humanoids.
Humanoids. That's exactly what we've been digging into. And what we found is these aren't just robots in the old sense. They're designed to look like us, act like us, form, expression, behavior.
They have facial expressions that mimic ours, emotional tone in their voice, even decision-making skills.
But the really crucial part, the thing that makes this whole topic so compelling, it's how fast they're getting more human-like. I mean, seemingly every day.
Yeah, and we saw those early examples, didn't we? Like Sophia, back in 2016, the whole world saw her.
And Saudi Arabia granted her citizenship, which seemed, well, almost like a stunt at the time.
It did. But looking back now through the lens of the material we reviewed, it feels less like a novelty and more like, maybe the first sign of a much bigger storm coming.
For sure. And then you see the next generation, like Ameca.
Ah, yes. Ameca.
The reports on Ameca describe facial expressions so realistic, it's genuinely unsettling. You really struggle to tell they aren't human.
They're not just static displays anymore. They're starting to actually, integrate.
Which brings us right to the core question running through all this material, the one we really need to unpack today.
Are humanoids just sort of the next chapter, the next big technological step?
Or are they ushering in something more profound? A new era that might fundamentally challenge our ideas about identity, about emotion, about what it means to be human.
That's the heart of it.
So we're going to explore exactly how these incredibly human-like machines seem poised to change our society, our culture, even our own thinking as they start to, well, live alongside us. Ready to dive in.
Let's do it. Okay, so we've touched on the basics, right? What they are, generally how they're made, the initial ways they're appearing around the world. But what's really clear from the sources is that the conversation is shifting. It's not just about the nuts and bolts of the technology anymore.
Right. It's moving much more into feelings, relationships, our sense of self.
Exactly. It's getting personal.
Which immediately throws up that central question, doesn't it? I mean, for you listening right now, as these machines start to mirror us so closely, are you ready? Are you ready to embrace robots that look and act just like us?
It's a pretty mind-bending thought, isn't it? Picture this scene described in the material. A busy morning, say, on the Delhi metro.
Crowded.
Okay.
A person standing next to you, maybe they smile, strike up a conversation, totally normal voice, logical points, polite.
And they could be a humanoid.
Precisely. And the fascinating point raised is maybe you wouldn't even be able to tell. And perhaps in that everyday moment, maybe you wouldn't even care.
Wow. And this isn't just theory. We're seeing actual examples of this integration happening now, beyond just tech demos.
Yeah, the sources mentioned Japan, for instance. Some families are apparently using humanoids for companionship.
Companionship, to combat loneliness.
Seems so. And they don't just do chores. They talk, they tell stories, they offer some kind of emotional support.
That's incredible. And it's not just Japan.
No, looking elsewhere, reports suggest some universities in the U.S. have actually appointed humanoids as professors.
Professors? Seriously?
That's what the material indicates.
Yeah.
And in India.
Right, I saw that. They're being used in several elder care homes, serving residents.
Which are roles that, traditionally require a lot of trust, human interaction, a real sense of care. Absolutely. Which leads directly to maybe the most complex question of all.
Can they actually understand emotions?
Yeah, the big one. What do the materials suggest on that? Can they feel or just mimic?
Well, the answer seems to be partially yes. It's complicated. Modern humanoids, they use these very sophisticated, deep neural networks, emotion recognition algorithms.
Okay, so technical stuff.
Right, but what it means is they can analyze things like your facial expressions, the tone of your voice, to try and figure out your mood.
So if you look sad,
They might actually ask, is everything okay? Or something similar. The way it's described, it's this really interesting blend of technology and something that feels like feeling.
It's definitely not just simple coding anymore then.
No, far from it.
Right.
And this ability, this seeming responsiveness to emotion, makes them incredibly useful across different sectors. We could be looking at a genuine revolution in some areas.
You can really see that. Take education.
Uh-huh.
The material explores humanoids acting as teachers, maybe in schools, engaging kids in new ways.
Or healthcare. Imagine a humanoid monitoring a patient 24/7, giving medicine exactly on time.
Sending updates to the family instantly. That could be huge.
Definitely. And then there's the corporate world, the service industry.
Right. A humanoid face at the reception desk. An assistant managing your meetings, your emails, your schedule.
It combines that efficiency we expect from machines with a human-like interface that people might find easier to interact with.
But this level of integration, it goes way beyond just convenience, doesn't it? It starts poking at some really deep questions about our culture, our society.
Absolutely. I mean, the material poses this. When you're talking every day to a robot that speaks your language, maybe wears similar clothes, tries to think like you, does the actual meaning of being human start to change?
And that question just explodes into all these critical ethical debates.
Which aren't just for philosophers anymore, right? They're becoming real issues in tech law, human rights discussions, psychology.
Exactly. Practical stuff. Like, should a highly advanced humanoid get some form of rights?
Can we form genuine emotional bonds with them? Could a machine become a true friend?
These are massive questions.
And we're seeing that some countries are already trying to get ahead of this, creating rules, legal frameworks.
Trying to define boundaries for humanoid behavior, set limits, the law, scrambling to catch up with the tech.
Yeah. And it's crucial to stress this isn't some distant 50 years away future we're talking about. The material gives glimpses of things happening now.
Like the creative roles. That was fascinating.
Right. Humanoid artists painting pictures, writing poetry.
Composing music.
Yeah.
And even becoming social media influencers.
Apparently so. Stepping into roles requiring creativity and social impact.
And the personal relationship angle is, well, it's quite something.
People seriously talking about marrying humanoids. Considering them best friends.
It sounds wild, but it's being discussed, which leads to that really provocative thought in the material.
As this all happens, are we sort of evolving, moving towards a new kind of human species?
Yeah.
Or maybe a truly integrated human-machine species?
It's a heavy thought. And it ties directly into that overarching question. Are humanoids really the next big thing? Or is it all just, a very clever technological illusion?
And the perspective offered in the material is, well, it's nuanced. It argues you can't just give a simple yes or no.
Because they're more than just machines.
Exactly. The argument is they represent something bigger, maybe an ideological revolution, like a mirror, reflecting our own future back at us.
A future where those old walls between human and machine just crumble.
Right. Consider that scenario they sketched out, maybe for an average Indian home, say, by 2035. That's only about a decade away.
Create the picture.
You might have Krishna, looks like a normal young man, brings you your morning tea, but Krishna's a humanoid.
Wow.
Or maybe your child can't go to school one day. Arya, a humanoid teacher, comes to your home for the lesson.
A personal tutor bot.
And then there's Sanjeev, the health bot, sets alarms for your grandmother's medicine, makes sure she takes it, monitors her blood pressure.
And the key takeaway is that this isn't pure fantasy. Elements of this are starting to happen now.
Precisely. And these humanoids are being designed with what some are calling superpowers, capabilities that could potentially exceed ours in key areas.
Like what?
Well, infinite memory. For one, they literally never forget anything.
Okay, that's useful.
Tireless work, day and night, no rest needed. Then there's emotional adaptation. The idea that the more time you spend with one, the better it understands you.
It learns your emotional tells?
Sort of.
Right.
And their capacity for continuous learning, that AI brain constantly updating, maybe faster than we can keep up with.
Okay, those are some impressive capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side, the material also emphasizes the potential dangers, right? The crises we need to think about now.
Oh, absolutely. Big time. First off, the fear of job loss. It's huge.
If these things can do so much, will they displace millions of human workers?
That's a major concern. Then there's the risk of emotional distance. If people get really attached to their companion bots, what happens to our human-to-human connections? Do they weaken?
That's a scary thought. And what about control?
Exactly. If humanoids start making genuinely autonomous decisions, who's actually in charge? Where does the buck stop?
And privacy. That's got to be a massive one.
For sure. As these machines learn more and more about our habits, our preferences, our lives, how much privacy do we actually have left?
These are the tough questions. The material basically says the answers will decide if this whole thing is a net positive or something else.
A boon or a curse, essentially. And you see wildly different takes on this from leading thinkers and scientists.
Like Elon Musk's warnings.
Right, he's been very vocal. If AI and robotics aren't controlled properly, he sees them as potentially the biggest existential threat we face.
Pretty stark warning, but then you have others.
Like Ray Kurzweil, who paints this picture of human-machine convergence leading to something like, well, immortality, a radically different future.
Complete opposites. And what about researchers like Dr. Rajasekaran in India?
His perspective, highlighted in the material, is very pragmatic. He's basically saying, look, we need to create human-machine policy now. Define rights, dignity, limits for humanoids before things get out of hand.
So the underlying message seems to be, the tech is coming, faster than we might think. The real question isn't if anymore.
It's, are we ready? As a society, as individuals, are we prepared for this?
Which brings us to the choices we have to make. The material frames it very clearly.
We have to decide how we fundamentally view this emerging species, for lack of a better word. Are they just tools, advanced appliances?
Or are they something more? Potential partners, fellow beings in a kind of symbiotic relationship.
And flowing from that, do we keep them firmly under our control within strict limits?
Or does the path eventually lead towards equality? Discussing rights for them. It's a profound crossroads.
It really is. So hopefully you've journeyed with us through this deep dive, moving from maybe abstract ideas towards something that feels much more real and imminent.
Yeah, the core message that really came through for me was this. Humanoids are being presented as way more than just clever robots.
They're potentially, as the source puts it, the first letter in the next chapter of human civilization.
And their arrival isn't just about new gadgets. It's about shifts in our thinking, our definitions of who we are, maybe even our limits as humans.
So back to that big question, are humanoids the next biggest thing?
And the answer offered is, well, it depends. It depends on us.
On our choices, our perspective, and maybe most importantly, our humanity. If we can learn to understand them, guide their development wisely, see them not just as limited tools, but potentially as partners.
Then yes, the argument is then they are the next big thing.
We seem to be entering an era where humans might start seeing themselves very differently, reflected in these non-biological intelligences.
An era where maybe collaboration, even feeling and thought become shared capital between humans and humanoids.
It's a radical vision. And the goal here today wasn't just to, list facts. It was hopefully to spark something.
To get you thinking, feeling, deciding. Where do you see your place in this future that's unfolding?
So if you learned something new today, or if something we discussed really resonated, maybe made you think differently about tomorrow,
then we've achieved what we set out to do with this deep dive. Keep thinking, keep asking questions. Because this future, it's not really an option anymore.
it's a journey. And it's certainly started. We're all on it.